My name is Mara Callahan, and I learned a long time ago that the people who underestimate you based on how you look are giving you the most dangerous gift, the element of surprise. For 5 years, I've been sheriff of Sagebrush County, Arizona. For 5 years, I've heard the whispers, the jokes, the nickname that follows me through every corridor of my own department, Sheriff Barbie. They think I don't hear it. They think I don't know that half my deputies believe I got this badge because I look good in a uniform, not because I earned it. They think my past doesn't exist because they can't see it. What they don't know, what nobody knows, is that before I became Mara Callahan, I was someone else entirely. Someone who lived in the darkest corners of human cruelty and came out the other side with scars they'll never see. This is the story of the day I finally let them see. It started on a Monday morning in late September, when the desert air still held the ghost of summer heat. I walked into the department at 7 a.m., coffee in hand, prepared for another day of managing a staff that barely respected me. The moment I stepped into the bullpen, I knew something was wrong. The usual morning chatter died. Deputies who'd been laughing suddenly found their paperwork fascinating. Rosa Mendez, my only female deputy and the closest thing I had to an ally, shot me a warning look. I walked into the briefing room and saw it. Someone had drawn a cartoon on the whiteboard, a blonde woman in a pink uniform, exaggerated curves, holding a tiny badge. The word sheriff was written in glittery pink marker. Below it, in block letters, plastic fantastic. Muffled laughter rippled through the room. Deputy Travis Kern leaned against the back wall, arms crossed, smirking. He was 38, built like a linebacker, with the kind of weathered face that came from generations of Arizona sun. He'd been with the department for 15 years, 7 years longer than I'd been sheriff. And he'd made it clear from day one that he'd never accept taking orders from a woman. That morning. "Sheriff," he said, emphasizing my title like it was a punchline. I walked to the whiteboard and erased the drawing without a word. The silence stretched uncomfortably. "Briefing in 5 minutes," I said calmly. "Everyone present." As deputies filed in, I could feel the tension. Travis sat in the back, feet propped on the chair in front of him, radiating defiance. 6 other deputies sat near him as crew, the ones who'd decided loyalty to him mattered more than respect for the badge. I began the briefing with new protocols for domestic violence calls. We'd had 3 incidents in the past month where victims recanted their statements after being interviewed in front of their abusers. "Effective immediately," I said. "All domestic violence calls will follow protocol. Delta 3 victims and suspects must be separated before any questioning. No exceptions. Studies show victims are 60% more likely to disclose abuse when interviewed away from their abuser." Travis snorted. "We've been handling domestics for years without problems. Why change what works?" "Because 3 women changed their stories last month," I replied evenly. "And 2 of them ended up back in the hospital within a week." "That's not working. Sounds like politically correct nonsense to me," Travis muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Next, you'll want us to ask permission before making arrests." Several deputies laughed. Rosa started to say something, but I caught her eye and shook my head. "Not yet." I finished the briefing, distributed the new protocol sheets, and dismissed everyone. As they filed out, Travis lingered, waiting until most of the others had left. "Sheriff Barbie," he said, not bothering to lower his voice, "you can write all the protocols you want. But out there in the real world, we do actual police work, not paperwork." I turned to face him directly. "Deputy Kern, you're dangerously close to insubordination." He stepped closer, towering over me by 8 inches. "Then write me up. See if it sticks. My family's been in this county for 4 generations. You're what? Nobody knows where you came from. You just showed up 10 years ago with a clean record and a nice smile. No law enforcement background anyone can verify. No references anyone can check." His eyes traveled over me dismissively. I bet you never even fired a weapon in anger before you pinned on that badge." The room went silent. The few deputies still present stopped pretending to work. I held his gaze for a long moment. Everything in me wanted to respond, to put him in his place, to show him exactly how wrong he was. But I'd learned patience in places where impatience meant death. "Are you finished, deputy?" I asked quietly. "For now, then get to work." He smirked and walked out, his boots heavy on the tile floor, alone in my office. I locked the door and opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a locked metal box. Inside that box was a manila envelope sealed with red tape and stamped with words that still made my chest tight. Asterisk, asterisk. Classified FBI Witness Protection Program do not open without authorization. Asterisk ID carried. That envelope for 10 years. Never opening it, never needing to. But I could feel the weight of it now. Heavy as a loaded weapon. Not yet, I told myself. Not yet. The situation exploded 2 days later. A domestic violence call came in at 3:47 p.m. Jenna Martinez, 28 years old, reporting that her boyfriend Kyle Driscoll had assaulted her and threatened to kill her if she called the police. I dispatched Travis and Deputy Marcus Chen, a younger officer who generally followed Travis's lead. "Protocol Delta 3, I said clearly over the radio. "Separate the parties immediately. Interview the victim out of sight and earshot of the suspect. Confirm?" Copied Sheriff Barbie, Travis drawled. His sarcasm audible even through radio static. Marcus didn't respond at all. 40-5 minutes later. My cell phone rang. Jenna Martinez calling from the emergency room. "Sheriff Callahan." Her voice was shaking. "I need to report your deputy." My stomach dropped. What happened? He interviewed me right in front of Kyle. Kyle was standing there the whole time staring at me. The deputy asked me what happened, and Kyle was just staring. So I said I fell. I said it was an accident. What else could I say? Where's Kyle now? They let him go. And now he's texting me. He's saying if I change my story, he'll finish what he started. I closed my eyes, rage burning cold in my chest. "Stay at the hospital. Don't leave. I'm sending Deputy Mendez to take you to a safe house. I'm scared, I know, but I've got you now. Trust me." I drove to the scene, a small house on the edge of town, peeling paint and a yard full of broken cars. Travis was leaning against his cruiser, filling out paperwork. Kyle Driscoll stood beside him, drunk and smirking. "Deputy Kern," I said, keeping my voice level. "Did you interview the victim in the presence of the suspect?" Travis didn't even look up. She said she was fine with it. "Didn't need your fancy protocol to handle a simple domestic. You violated a direct order. I used discretion. Something you'd understand if you had actual field experience." Kyle laughed, enjoying the show. I turned to him. "Kyle Driscoll, you're under arrest for domestic assault and criminal threatening." Kyle's smile faded. "The deputy already cleared me. I'm the sheriff, and I'm arresting you now." Travis stepped between us. "You're going to undermine me in front of a civilian. You undermined yourself when you ignored protocol and put a victim in danger. Step aside or you'll be suspended." For a moment, I thought he might actually physically block me. His jaw clenched, fists tight. Then he stepped back, but leaned close enough that only I could hear. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed quietly. "It isn't." I arrested Kyle, transported Jenna to a domestic violence shelter, and returned to the station knowing that the war I'd been avoiding was about to begin. Travis didn't waste time. Within 48 hours. He'd collected signatures from 8 of my 12 deputies on a petition calling for my removal as sheriff. The charge: incompetent leadership, implementation of unnecessary protocols that endanger officer safety, and lack of verifiable law enforcement experience. The petition went to the county council, which scheduled an emergency public hearing. The council chambers were packed. It seemed like half the county had shown up, drawn by gossip and the promise of drama. Travis sat in the front row with his supporters, looking confident. Almost relaxed, I sat alone at the respondents' table. Hands folded, waiting. The council president, Mayor Robert Daniels, called the meeting to order. We're here to address a petition filed by Deputy Travis Kern and others regarding Sheriff Callahan's fitness for office. Deputy Kern, you have the floor. Travis stood, playing to the crowd with practiced ease. Thank you, Mayor. I don't take pleasure in being here. But I took an oath to protect this community. And I can't do that under leadership that doesn't understand real police work. He painted a picture of me as an outsider appeared 10 years ago from nowhere. No verified background, no real experience. He claimed my protocols were bureaucratic nonsense that made deputies less effective and more vulnerable. She's never told us where she worked before, he said. No department will confirm she was ever employed there. We don't even know who she really is. Other deputies testified in support. She doesn't trust us. She micromanages everything. She's more worried about paperwork than safety. Rosa tried to defend me, but she was shouted down by Travis's supporters in the crowd. Mayor Daniels looked uncomfortable. He'd always been friendly to me, but political pressure was clearly building. Sheriff Callahan, he said, do you have anything to say in your defense? I stood slowly. I do. But I need authorization to present classified federal evidence. The room went silent. Classified. The mayor repeated. Yes, material protected under federal witness security protocols. I have discretionary authority to disclose under specific circumstances. This qualifies. Travis laughed. More mystery, more drama. Of course, I ignored him. I opened my laptop and connected it to the chamber's sound system. What you're about to hear, I said calmly, is a 911 call made on March 15, 2009. During an FBI undercover operation, targeting a human trafficking network operating between Tucson and Phoenix. Placed my hand on the spacebar. The voice on this recording is mine. I pressed play. Static filled the speakers. Then a woman's voice, sung, terrified, but controlled with the kind of discipline that only comes from extensive training. Asterisk 911, what's your emergency? Code Ambry 7. Undercover agent compromised. Location, abandoned warehouse, Route 86, mile marker 247. Multiple armed suspects. Approximately 20 to 25 victims, mostly juveniles. Request immediate tactical response. Identify yourself. Agent Jennifer Cole. FBI identification number Foxtrot-Bravo-7-7-2-1. I've been undercover for 6 months. My position has been compromised. They know. Asterisk background soundsmen shouting in Spanish, doors slamming. The woman's breathing grew ragged. Asterisk, they're coming. I have approximately 2 minutes before they find the phone. The victims are locked in the south basement. Children ages 7 to 16. Women ages 20 to 30. They need immediate medical attention. Many are injured, malnourished, severely traumatized. Help is on the way. Stay on the line. I can't. They'll hear. I asterisk a crash, screaming. The line went dead. In the council chambers. You could have heard a pin drop. I let the silence settle, heavy and suffocating. Then I continued. That call initiated Operation Desert Rose. FBI tactical units, ICE, and Homeland Security responded. 14 suspects were arrested. 23 victims were rescued, 18 minors, 5 adults. The undercover agent was beaten nearly to death and held hostage for 7 hours before extraction. I looked directly at Travis. That agent was me. Jennifer Cole was my operational pseudonym. I spent 18 months infiltrated in that network. I witnessed the sale of children. I documented rape, torture, and murder. I testified in 7 sealed federal prosecutions. And when it was over, I entered protected relocation and became Mara Callahan. The room erupted in whispers. Travis had gone pale. The protocols I've implemented, I continued, voice steady. They're based on watching what happens when victims are questioned in front of their abusers. I've seen women killed for changing their stories after officers left. I've held children who were beaten for talking too much. I turned to face the entire room. So no, Deputy Kern, my protocols aren't politically correct nonsense. They're written in blood. They're built on bodies I couldn't save. And I will not apologize for implementing procedures designed to protect the vulnerable, even if they inconvenience officers who'd rather take shortcuts. I closed my laptop. I didn't tell anyone my background because I wanted to be Mara Callahan, just a sheriff doing honest work in a quiet town. I didn't want to be defined by trauma. I wanted peace. I looked at Travis one last time, but I won't stand here and let someone with a badge tell me I'm not qualified. I've earned my place. I've paid for it in ways you'll never understand. And if that's not enough for this council, then I'll resign. But I won't be bullied into silence by someone who mistakes seniority for competence. I sat down. The vote wasn't even close. 9-3 in my favor. Travis was suspended for 30 days without pay for willful insubordination and violation of direct orders. 3 other deputies, his closest allies, resigned in protest. I let them go after the meeting. The parking lot had mostly cleared. I was unlocking my truck when I heard footsteps behind me. Travis stood there looking smaller, somehow diminished. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "You didn't want to know," I replied. "You looked at me and decided I hadn't earned my place. That's your problem, not mine. Is there a way to start over?" I considered him for a long moment. "You can serve your suspension. When you come back, you can follow my protocols without question or complaint. Do that for 6 months, and we can talk about starting over." He nodded, beaten, and walked away. Rosa appeared beside me. "That was the 911 call. That was really you. Every word. Why keep it secret for so long?" I looked out at the desert, mountains turning purple in the fading light. Because after years of living under an alias, pretending to be someone I wasn't, hunting monsters, I wanted to just be Mara. I wanted a life where I wasn't defined by the worst things I'd ever seen. And now people will see me differently. They'll treat me like a hero or a victim. But at least they'll respect the work. 3 weeks later, Jenna Martinez came to the station. Kyle was in jail awaiting trial. She was in therapy, rebuilding her life, safe. "Thank you," she said, taking my hand, "for believing me, for not making me say it in front of him." "You don't need to thank me," I told her. "It's my job. It always has been." That night, I drove home as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. I thought about Jennifer Colva, woman I'd been, scared, undercover, living on the knife's edge of death every single day. Then I thought about Mara Callahan, the woman I'd chosen to become, quiet, competent, dedicated to justice without glory. Both were real. Both were strong, but only one had peace. The radio played an old Emmylou Harris song as I passed cotton fields bathed in golden light. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because some victories don't come from proving you're the strongest person in the room. They come from refusing to be diminished by people who never cared enough to see who you really were. I pulled into my driveway as twilight settled over the desert. My dog, a German Shepherd named Echo, waited on the porch, tail wagging. Inside, I made coffee and stood at the kitchen window, watching stars emerge one by one in the endless Arizona sky. On my refrigerator was a photo, the only one I kept from my old life. It showed 23 people, mostly women and children, standing in front of a safe house in Phoenix. Their faces were blurred for protection, but I remembered every single one. Maria, 12 years old, who'd been trafficked from Guatemala. Chen, 16, sold by her own family. Rebecca, 9, who'd stopped speaking entirely. They were alive because of that 911 call, because I'd been willing to risk everything, and now, 10 years later, I was protecting people in a different way. Quieter, less dramatic. But no less important, my phone buzzed. A text from Rosa, asterisk domestic call, handled perfectly. New deputy followed protocol. Victim safe. Thank you for teaching us the right way. I smiled and typed back. That's what we're here for. Asterisk outside. A coyote called across the desert, its voice lonely and wild. Echo's ears perked up, but he stayed close, loyal. I thought about Travis, about all the men like him who'd looked at me and seen only surface, who'd never imagined that beneath the quiet exterior was someone who'd stared in too. Hell, and walked back out. I didn't need them to know my story. I just needed them to do their jobs with honor. The next morning, I arrived at the station to find something different. The whiteboard in the briefing room was clean, and written in neat block letters, Protocol Delta 3, protecting those who can't protect themselves. Rosa stood nearby, marker in hand, smiling. Figured it was time we remembered what the badge actually means, she said. I squeezed her shoulder. Thank you. That day, we ran a domestic violence call by the book. The victim felt safe enough to tell the truth. The suspect was arrested without incident. No one got hurt. It was quiet work, unglamorous, the kind of thing that never makes headlines. But that night, a woman and her 2 children slept in safety instead of fear, and that, I realized, was worth more than any dramatic rescue, any federal commendation, any recognition I'd ever received, because heroism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just doing the right thing. Day after day, when no one's watching and no one's counting. I drove home as the sun set. Painting the desert in fire. Echo greeted me at the door, and I scratched his ears, grateful for simple things: a loyal dog, a quiet house, work that mattered. On my desk, the sealed FBI envelope still sat in its locked box. I didn't need to open it anymore. The past was past, but its lessons about courage, about standing up, about refusing to be silenced, those I carried forward every single day. And in a small county in Arizona, under endless skies and ancient mountains, Sheriff Mara Callahan continued doing the work, not because she needed to prove anything, but because some people are called to protect others, no matter the cost. And once you've heard the voices of the ones who couldn't save themselves, you never stop listening. The phone rang. Another call. Another person who needed help. I answered it, my voice steady and sure. Sheriff Callahan, how can I help you? And the work continued, because that's what heroes do. Not the loud ones you read about in papers, but the quiet ones who show up every day and do the job nobody else wants to. The ones who've seen the worst of humanity and still choose every single morning to believe in the best. That was who I was. And finally, everyone knew it.